Hello everyone. So today I want to talk about parallel and series circuits. Those are two terms that you will hear commonly, and so it's important to understand what those mean. So let's first talk about what do we mean when we say components are wired in parallel. So let's say you have two components. Where you have a wire that comes in and it splits off to two different components. And then the wires rejoin. And I'm not going to draw what these wires are connected to. They're connected to some other circuit, which is producing a current. The current flows into there, and then it will split off into these two different branches, and then it will rejoin. And what we like to say is that these two components here are in parallel because the current splits off and it flows through both of them simultaneously, and then it rejoins. So that technically speaking, what you could say is that two or more components are in parallel if they are both connected to the same pair of nodes. So you could call this node 1, and this is node 2. And because both components are connected across the same nodes, they're in parallel. And you could say the same thing even if you had an additional component. You could say all three of these components or more are all in parallel. So that's what it means when we say components are in parallel. Essentially that the current splits off from a node, flows through the components, and then comes back. Series now, let's talk about that. Suppose you have two components here, one after another. And again, I'm not drawing the rest of the circuit, but there's a circuit, these two wires are connected to another circuit that's causing a current to flow. And essentially, we have a current, I, that is flowing through this wire here, or through these components. And what's interesting about this is, unlike this previous case where components were in parallel, here the current will flow through one component and then it will flow through the next one. So it's not simultaneous. We say that these two are in series. So they're in series if the same current flows through one component, then flows through another. So basically, if if you added a component, let's say we had another component here. Now, this component here, this addition of this component would make these no longer in series, because now this same current I, it'll flow through this component, but then it will split off. So in order for it to be considered in series, the same current has to flow through one component and then the other one. So when we're talking about components being in series, we basically mean that they are joined together with no other components being connected. so that the current entering this one then will go through the other one. Now, one thing that we can actually do is we can combine, we can kind of use this concept of series and parallel and combine different elements sometimes. So let me give you an example here. So let's say you've got two components. And then you have, these two components are in series, right? And then you have these three components. They're all in parallel. So we can see that these right here, they're in series. The current flowing through here will go through one of the components and then through the other one. Same current. It doesn't go off anywhere else. It just goes through one and goes through the other. Then it comes here to circuits that are, or components that are in parallel. And that's where the current will then split off. But you can see these are connected to, these are all connected to common nodes. So these things are, they are all in parallel here. Now, one thing you can say is, you can say that this whole combination here, this whole thing, and these two components here, these are all in series. If you consider all three of these components together as like one big component, because basically the current flows through this, it flows through one component, then it flows to the next one, same current, and then it flows through this big blob here, and then exits out here. So, so you can kind of combine things together and view it in that way as well. So hopefully that gives you an understanding of what is meant when we say that things are in series and in parallel. And I will see you all in the next video. Thanks. Hello everybody, thanks for watching. If you found this content helpful, would you please consider liking and subscribing to the channel? That will help other people find it. And if you won't do it for me, will you do it for my cat, Muon? Named after my favorite subatomic particle, by the way. So, she will be very, very upset if you do not like and subscribe. So please, don't disappoint. How could you say no to this cuteness?